Hi everyone, it's Deborah in Chicago and it is cold out today, but I'm going to bring you something that's really heartwarming. Chris, my son-in-law who owns Heat Transfer Source, bought these Santa hat and stockings and watched this. Isn't that darling? Can you imagine that hanging by your fireplace? And there's 3 different settings. There's these fast flashing lights, that kind of flashing light, and then slow ones. I mean, I think this would make the cutest little gift. So I'm going to make the cutest little gift, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, let me show you how I go about initially designing something. First, I want to measure it for how large my design field is going to be. So I think making this the design field would be appropriate, although you have a lot of space all along here, but I think this is going to read the best for what I want to do. So in measuring that, I come down a little way from the top, from the white, and that's about 5 inches, about 5 inches, 5 inches by 5 inch square. So that's my design field, which makes. All right, now I've moved us over to my computer desktop so you can see how I'm going to put together this image for the little Christmas stocking. First thing I do is go into images on Cricut and see what they have that might be available. So I open images and type in Christmas lights. And this was, I've already done this, so I'm just taking you over my steps. This was the image I selected. And I want to work with this image. But the first thing I do when I start designing is I take it to a size, a static size. It's going to stay this size during the design process. So I'm going to take this to a 6 inch width, just because I think that's easier for you to see and for me to see. And I'm going to duplicate it because I want to back up just in case. All right, so I'm going to hide that. See all the little eyeballs down here? I'm going to hide that. Now, of course, there's some elements in this image I want to change. Basically, the color of Christmas. So let's ungroup this, and we're going to hide everything but the Christmas. So right off the bat, I'm going to select that again. I'm going to change the color to green. Good, easy peasy. But I also want to show you how to slice. So we're going to slice this Christmas tree light out of the image. So let's pull up shapes over here on the left. Get a little circle. We're going to send that to back and put it right underneath there. Now you know you can only slice between 2 layers. So I'm going to select all. Think of it like cookie dough and a cookie cutter. You can have the cookie cutter, which is the circle, and the cookie dough, which is the image. That reveals slice down here. See slice on the lower right? Now, if you had 3 or more layers, you couldn't do that. But we can slice because we only have 2 layers. So that's garbage, and that's garbage. While I'm at it, I'm going to change that color just so I don't get confused to that. Okay. Now let's go back and reveal the other parts of this element. There's a little one Okay, move it back over there. Now we're going to, because we ungrouped it to do that, we're going to select all and put it back together. So we're going to regroup it. Now I want to put some text in. See how this is highlighted in gray and it says group there? We're just going to hide this whole group while we work with our text. So I'm going to pull up the text from over here on the left rail and type in my grandson's name. And I also like to use the date. Okay, so we have the date and his name. Now I want to change the font and use Beefcakes. That's Beefcakes, and I'll change this also. Perfect. And while I'm at it, I want to make it white. Okay, now we need the design field, and we said that was 5 by 5. So we're going to go into shapes, pull out a square, make it 5 by 5, and it's going to be red because that's the color of our stocking. And I'm going to send that to back so I can move everything else on top of it. Let's start getting our, put this in the center so we can see it. Let's start getting our elements in here. Let's go back to our group. That's obviously going to need to be smaller. Now, this 5 by 5 shape is the whole size of our field. So we can go right down here on the edge. I think the type is still a little bit big. Let's reduce the size of that. Actually, let's get them the same size. Let's make them 50. I think they're still too big. They go up here and make that 50. That's a little better. Now I'm going to select all, and I want to align it. So I go into align, and I'm going to center everything horizontally. Perfect. I don't want to cut this box, right? So we're going to hide it. And this is the stuff we're going to cut. Now, here's our design, but before I go to make it, I want to do one more thing that's going to simplify the cutting process for me. And that is to group Dylan or attach Dylan and 2019. So let me hide that, and I'm going to select that and attach it. That leaves it as one element. Okay, now let's reveal everything else, and we're ready to get ready for our virtual mat. And what I like to do is I like to get everything on one mat if possible. It just makes it easier for me. So let's go into Color Sync up here on the upper right and slide all these things down, all of these different things into one color. And I always like to use a light color because I can see it better. All right, that looks good. So we're going to go in to make it. And you can see everything is on one mat. Now we're going to place our things. Now, the last thing we do, of course, because this is HTV and it has to be mirrored, is we're going to remember to mirror this. This black is going to be in matte vinyl, and everything else is going to be in hologram and glitter. So I'm going to highlight this because I am going to put that on a different mat. And I'm going to move it to another mat. And it's going to be black because that's what the type is. So you can see it's down there. I'm going to move it up here. Okay, for this mat, I'm going to use hologram and glitter, and I'm going to use the light cardstock. For the black mat, I'm going to use Vinyl Plus. So, ready to weed. I'm going to use our Tweedy Light, which makes weeding so much easier. Now you're going to see some wasted space on here, but remember, we always use that by keeping this transfer tape and putting it back on. You've seen me do that before, and I'll show you again on this video. Okay, here we are at the heat press. I have it set to 315, just because that's what it was already set on. Here is my little stocking. Yep. I'm going to give it a real quick press to get some of these, a few wrinkles out, make sure there's no moisture in there, and to adjust my pressure, make sure. Pressed out nicely. All right, I believe that this part will be the first part that goes down. And I'm just gonna eyeball this. You can help me. Does that look okay? Now, since there's no other exposed vinyl, we're just going to give it a quick press because we have other layers to press, so maybe 10 to 15 seconds. This is glitter, so it's going to be a cold peel, and I'm going to use our HTS cooling block, which will speed that cold peel. Lovely. Okay, then I think the next one we're going to do, I've got a little piece on there. It was from one of my centers, so make sure you've got everything off this or it'll press on. That looks good. Now, obviously, we can't put the lights under the heat press. And you want to use a release paper since we have some exposed vinyl on there. Easy to weed, easy to cut. Perfect. Let's put our Christmas down. Actually, while we put that down, we could also put down some of these lights. Let's do that. Because those two don't touch, we can do two at one time. Leave this on for about 10 seconds. This is our hologram and more glitter. Gotta cool peel that. In order to apply the remaining 3 Christmas tree lights, I trimmed the transfer tape so I could heat press them all at the same time. Okay, one more press. Make sure it's all on there. I think Dylan will like it. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.